Welcome to Michael's Record Collection. I'm very pleased to have with me on this episode Leslie Hunt, singer-songwriter, has two new EPs out this year, Ascend and Descend. One of them came out, Ascend came out June 25th, and Descend came out October 22nd. Leslie, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Appreciate it.
I know you from District 97, the progressive rock
hmm
band. A lot of people will know you from American Idol. You have three previous solo albums out as a solo artist.
hmm
It came out. One of them came out in 2006 from the Strange to a Stranger. Your Hair is on Fire came out in '09, and Wait for It came out in 2012. And now you've got these two new releases that came out on Spirit of Unicorn Music, distributed by Cherry Red. And I can't wait to talk to you about them because I've been enjoying them since they came out, and I've been really listening to them a lot this week preparing for this
Oh,
interview.
that's really cool. Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for the music. I wanted to start though by asking you about your musical background. Your parents were musical people. Do you remember how they introduced you to music, or did they just let you come to music?
Um, it's interesting. I think I was predisposed. I think I was born an entertainer and a performer, and I think that they saw early on that I was really looking for any opportunity I could to make people laugh or entertain them with song or do a dance for them or organize my cousins into a performance to perform for the family after dinner or just anything I could do to entertain. And then my dad recognized early on that I had perfect pitch, and I would sit down at the piano and just play and sing and just and so my parents got me into piano lessons when I was 4, and then I started doing professional theater when I was 10. And then I've basically been, making a living in some capacity as a singer, entertainer since I was in elementary school. So it was, I think, a mixture of my parents providing a very musical environment. So where like there was always a PA set up in the living room, there was always a microphone ready to go. There was a grand piano right in the middle. There was a drum set, everywhere. My mom played bass and guitar and I don't know. So just lots of music going
Yeah.
on.
I'm always amazed when people say they started taking music lessons at an early age. I mean, I think most of us were just trying not to wet the bed at that age.
I mean, I was probably doing both. So
Multitasking early on.
yeah, piano in a diaper,
Do you recall what your first favorite song or your first favorite album were?
I recall just being completely obsessed with Disney songs, just
Mhm.
Disney movies, memorizing them start to finish, um, watching them over and over and over again until I knew every word, every little musical interlude, every little nuance. Um, and yeah, but I think song wise, I've loved, I'm trying to think how it all began. I feel like I loved, like 80s women. So
Mhm.
like Heart, the Bangles, um, Taylor Dane, Paula Abdul, Madonna, any of those just like 80s, just big hair, scrunchies every which way, mesh stuff all, just yeah, as a kid, it was my favorite thing to, Gem was a big deal for me as a kid.
Okay. Yeah. Did you
Barbie
have a
was all right, but Gem was where it was at for me. So
did you have a favorite Disney princess?
Ariel all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was a rebel, but her voice was so great, and I loved her songs, and I loved her how she just, had to break free of her controlling father. I loved that.
Okay. You grew up at a good time to have role models, musical role models in women because MTV was very popular in the 80s, and it
Mhm.
was a great time for female artists on MTV to get noticed. And so, it's kind of interesting that you're throwing all these influences out there that were big on MTV.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw myself in them. I was like, there's no reason why I can't do this one day.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Mhm.
not an American Idol watcher.
Nor am I. We have
Okay.
that in common.
I came to I came to you through District 97. That's how you sort of crossed my paths. But you were very successful on the show, reaching the top 10 women in season 6. And that's how, like, a lot of people will know you from your performances there. And probably that was a case of, and one of the reasons why I don't watch American Idol or that I don't care for it is because I think a part of why you didn't go further was because of like sort of stage movement type
Yep.
stuff rather than your voice. And I always think
Mhm.
that the music's the most important thing.
Yep, I agree. And I think at the time I had so little experience standing there and singing without playing an instrument. At that point, I had basically only performed with my voice on a stage playing piano at the same time. I think
Mhm.
it's kind of coincidence that the following year they let people play instruments. So that was a
Yeah.
little ironic. But yeah, and I think that I didn't really believe in myself and I didn't have confidence. And I think that really did come across
Hmm.
as, you know, awkward, like Simon said, you know what I mean? And I felt so awkward. So he wasn't wrong, you know. I think that they were really kind of looking for someone that just embodied the thing, you know, right away without needing to be kind of like coaxed along,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
but I appreciate
your no problem. Your District
that.
97 is definitely not what you do as a singer-songwriter. It's not what you do on your solo albums. It's very different. How did you get into progressive rock music? How did you get into District 97? Was the fact that your dad was a jazz drummer, did that play into your interest in progressive rock?
Definitely, definitely it did. My dad is a jazz drummer, but he's also a free jazz composer as well. So I grew up attending and touring with a band called the Hal Russell Energy Ensemble. And it was basically like compositions that would explode into free improvisation madness and then come
Hmm.
back to the composition. And then the composition was always surprising, you know, time signatures, very odd kind of angular melodies. And my favorite thing was when my dad would just kind of like put a groove to it. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
when District 97 came along and they didn't have a singer yet, I listened to them and I was just like, this is so stimulating and exciting. And I loved it. Like the challenge, I'm like, where's the one? My dad would always be like, where's the one? Where's the one? And I'm like, you know, right there, I think, you know, and he's like, yes, you passed. You know, I mean, he's not a drill sergeant, but he loved to challenge me like that.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean? And
good.
be like, where's the one? So that was really appealing when I heard them. And I felt like um, my sister had just passed away and she was really into metal and my dad grew up, you know, I was listening to tons of Frank Zappa in the house, just, you know, Led Zeppelin, which is obviously not as prog, but still rocks and is still, you know, has some unexpected twists and turns.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and I met them all in music school. So I was already kind of academically thinking along the lines of beyond, you know, my pop, you know, instincts necessarily.
Yeah.
So I
So
was primed and ready for that.
did they reach out to you, or did you answer an ad, or how did that work out that you ended
Nice.
up in?
So Jonathan, the drummer of District 97, you know, formerly the primary composer. Now I would say we all compose equally, but he runs the band definitely. And he thought that by asking me to open for them at one of their first shows as an instrumental band, as a solo artist, I was just hot off American Idol. I think he thought that I was going to draw a crowd.
Hmm.
I did not draw a crowd. I also really stink at promoting myself and telling people about shows. So, you know, that rings true to this day, unfortunately. But when I heard them perform as an instrumental group after my set, and I was like, I want to be your new singer, please. Like, can I sing with you guys?
Hmm.
And Jonathan was like, sure. And so he started writing songs for me. And the first song he wrote for me to sing was 27 minutes long and it's called Mind Scan. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, this could be a of an album, but sure,
Yeah.
I'll sing this song.
It's a
So
lot
I
to
kind of
memorize.
asserted myself into it.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
Um, you were mentored by songwriting legend Jim Peterick, who we talked about on this show extensively on episode 17 in my Dennis DeYoung interview, because he worked with Dennis on his last couple albums.
Mhm.
How did you cross paths with Jim Peterick?
It's so crazy and it sounds like a Lifetime movie, but it's true. So I recorded a 6-song demo in my aunt and uncle's basement, in their basement studio, just me singing and playing my songs. I made a bunch of them. I made hundreds of copies, circulated them all throughout the high school. The man who was managing the big theater that was attached to my high school that would get a lot of big names through, his name was Bob Dostocki. He has now passed away, but he used to manage the Eagles. And a good friend of his, Jim Peterick, was looking for a young artist to mentor and produce. And so he got a copy of my tape. My tape ended up in Jim Peterick's hands. And then I've been working with Jim Peterick seriously to this day since I was 15 years old. He used to come over and sit in my living room, and I would show him songs I was working on, and he would help me finish them. Or, he would kind of start a song and ask me to finish it. And he got me a development deal with Sony, which was great. I wasn't ready for it on a personal level quite yet, but he's been, kind of championing me as a singer, and now I'm like his go-to demo voice. If he has a new song and he wants to shop it around, he'll have me come to his studio because I am local. It takes me 40 minutes to get to his house. And I'll demo his songs. So that's
That must have been for you. That must have been invaluable to learn songwriting from somebody like that.
No joke. Yeah, absolutely. We would, yeah, it was humongous. And honestly, I mean, I have those instincts, like I have the songwriter I have the channel to that muse, and I feel like I'm just given songs and I don't know where they come from and I don't know how I came up with them, but they just are given to me by something else. I don't believe that it is actually me. I just feel like a vessel most of the time. And so, but he basically just mainly gave me the confidence to just listen to that, and not overthink it too much. And then also kind of like help me think about form structure,
Yeah.
Maybe this goes on a little too long. Maybe we should shorten this and we should get to the chorus a little sooner, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Jim and his World Stage project just came out with Tigress, Women Who Rock the World. And that album, you sing Taller and Brave is Beautiful. How did that project go? Did Jim pick the vocalist based on the song, or did the vocalist pick the song? Did you work on it together? How did that kind of fit together?
I had sang most of those songs. I think I sang like 3 other songs, so maybe 5 or 6 total off that album I had sang just for demo purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have liked my demo version of those 2 songs enough to put them on the record. And he probably doctored it up a little bit, but I don't know actually how he selected the songs for those people. But they turned out to be really good choices. So like I listened to their version and I was like, oh yeah, that girl's voice is like really good on that one, like better than mine was. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that one has just come out and it's on Spotify, so people should go check that out because it's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we talk about your 2 EPs, Ascend and Descend? My first question has got to be obvious. Why 2 EPs instead of an album?
And I still don't know if that was a great choice. I think I just kind of wanted to prolong the process of, because sometimes when you just do an album, it just feels like a big boulder just falling out of the sky. And it's like, here it is, And so I think it was fun to kind of create some buzz around each one individually, and also just sonically, stylistically, subject matter wise, they are their own bodies of work. I wrote each of them in very similar time periods. I mean, so like I wrote all of Ascend in a very short time period. I wrote all of Descend in a short time period, and there's not a ton of crossover subject matter wise. I would say Ascend was written and mostly recorded before COVID even hit, and it was just such a different world with such a different set of priorities. It was very much about love and relationships and confidence and things like that. And then Descend is about like whoa, like human beings on this planet, what are we going through? Social justice issues, just suddenly getting off the treadmill and being like, whoa, what am I going to do with all this time? I don't have any performances. I don't have any gigs. Like, what is my life? Who am I right now? It was tough.
So that must have always been the plan going in then, was to make these two sort of separate things.
I think it was, yeah. And then once we got going on the sound of Descend, it was clear that it was not going to be quite as Nashville sounding. It was more like soulful, a little more like, there's some like funk and kind of, R&B aspect to it here and there. But yeah.
Okay. I hope you only had to sit for one photography session for the two covers.
I did. Yeah, it was all one day. Yeah.
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 We'll talk about the personnel. You wrote all the songs. It was produced by Christian Matthew Cullen, who also works with Jim Peterick, obviously.
Yep.
You did lead and backing vocals and acoustic guitar. Matt Gold did electric and acoustic guitar and steel guitar. Brian Doherty on bass. Michael Caskey on drums. Stuart Mindeman on piano, Wurlitzer, organ, synthesizer. Christian Matthew Cullen did a lot on this. So backing vocals, electric guitar, Moog Mellotron, which is awesome for me.
Yeah.
Percussion, organ, slide guitar, piano, steel guitar, Wurlitzer, and string arrangements.
Yeah, I know. He did a lot. I know. So so basically the basics of Ascend were all done in more or less one day in someone's apartment. His name is Anthony Gravino. He had a home studio that was just unbelievable in every respect. He now moved down to Champaign and has a beautiful studio down there. I have not seen it yet. It's a little far away. But that was all done in one day. And so I had that, and then had every intention on finishing it. And then COVID happened. And then after I had already written all of Descend, I reached out to Christian and said, hey, I've got like 14 songs. Like, I want you to produce all of them, because this one needs to be finished. We need to figure out how to finish the vocals without me having to leave my house. So we set up a remote laptop situation with an interface and a condenser mic, and we would FaceTime, and then he would take over the computer with Logic on it and engineer the session from Indianapolis while I was in my bedroom closet singing into a corner of dresses.
Wow.
So, I mean, we really got crafty on how to finish, Ascend, and then we did Descend in a similar way, but that was mainly done kind of piecemealed. It wasn't as much of like an organic, everybody in the house tracking at one time, keeping entire takes. Maybe we punch one little line here and there. Like, it was just sounds that way too, just sounds very cohesive.
Believe it or not, you're not the only person I've talked to on this show who recorded vocals in a closet during the pandemic.
I believe it. Because what are you going to do? It's like, got to find the least reverberant room. And if you're lucky enough to have a closet where you can stand in, do that, because it's
got the sound deadening of the clothes hanging there and all of that. So it works really well. So Ascend, as you mentioned, it kind of covers, the subject matter is like matters of the heart and the soul. And both of these EPs are 7 songs, and they're fairly short, concise songs, really well suited for, the pop genre, because it's, the perfect single length, if you will. Starting Over is the one that kicks off Ascend. And to me, and I'm not going to talk about every single song because we would be here all day, but to me, this has a little bit of maybe a Ben Folds or a Todd Rundgren vibe. What were you kind of going for on this song?
I really like that. I am a big fan of both of those artists and songwriters. I was channeling, some of my songwriter heroes like Joni Mitchell, and also I don't know, actually no, this was the song that broke a very long bout of writer's block. So right here is one song on the album that was written kind of a one-off, just on its own years ago, maybe in 2011 or 12 or 13 or something like that. So a long, long time ago. And then Starting Over was the first song that, and I don't really think I thought it through. It just, the song came to me and it all came very fast. It wasn't one of those ones where like I worked on it for several days and couldn't decide on a chorus. It was just very like, just came out, and I didn't question it too much. So yeah.
I really enjoy the chorus and the sort of the cleverness of the lyrics on this one. Then you go right into There You Are, which is a very big Tom Petty vibe to me. It's got some nice slide guitar, but a bit of crunch on the guitar riff. And it's interesting to me that I would say Ascend sonically is a little more consistent from start to finish, but you still vary some styles in there a little bit. And I just wondered if you had, you talked about your songwriting heroes like Joni Mitchell, but did you go into this with a plan, or is this just the way it kind of worked out?
I wish I had more of a plan, but I really didn't. I mean, it was hard to even come up with names for these, I think this wouldn't have even been called Ascend had it not been for that symbolism of like taking off, going into a direction. Oh, never mind. We have to land. We have to, touch down in a city and be in like a never ending layover, which is what like the pandemic feels like, we're just a never ending, like just what are we doing now? So I don't know. I think I just wanted something that felt like really organic and very song focused, with not a whole lot of electronic production. I wanted to keep it on the simple side. And just, I don't know, I guess I was just listening to a lot of like Casey Musgraves at the time too. Her album Golden Hour wasn't as, I'm not a giant country music fan, and that album was just so about the songs, and it just had a really good kind of cozy sound to it, start to finish. And I guess I was kind of going for that, if I'm honest.
Okay. You have a very nice, tasty slide guitar on Your Wind, and then you get into the song that I think a lot of people will gravitate to on Ascend, which is Wolf Cried Boy, because it's got that great, simple juxtaposition in the title and the lyric. And it seems to me that the wolf in this case is a woman. That's you.
It's me.
Do you normally write from your own point of view, or do you write from a character, or does it vary?
It's usually pretty like it's usually something I'm going through usually. Sometimes the guys in District 97 will give me something that they'd like me to write about, or like in the instance of Ghost Girl, that big epic that's on our last album. That was a story about another person altogether that we met on the cruise that had this really sad story about being like haunted by demons her whole life and having like a really weird, like a mom that, so I will write about other stuff, but for the most part, when it's my own, I will write from the perspective of myself and then try to spin it in a poetic enough way to where it doesn't sound like a journal entry necessarily, or like use enough metaphor to where you could listen to it and kind of like put yourself into it more easily. Because I think that that's ultimately what a listener really looks for, is like something that they can pull into their own life and their own experiences. They're not necessarily like trying to find out all about me.
Yeah. So the Wolf That Cried Boy, is this, I guess this would be you saying that, to tie it back to the fable, should be you saying like, this is the one, and then it's not the one, and then this is the one, and it's not the one, that kind of thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's been my history. And I was in a relationship at the time when I wrote this that understandably my family and friends weren't taking super seriously, because I had just gotten out of another one that was the one, and everybody's the one. And, and I was feeling kind of frustrated that I had to miss out on, because they weren't really eager to meet this person until I had like put in enough time to where kind of like this person kind of proved staying power. And so I felt like I wrote a song, like kind of frustrated that we couldn't all just be together. Like I had to leave him out of pool parties. I had to, he just wasn't like welcome. And it makes sense, I'm 39 years old and I've been in a fair amount of relationships, and it makes sense that everyone would want, to not necessarily like fall in love with everybody I fall in love with.
Yeah. Yeah. They get to like him and then he's not around anymore kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's why you also don't show your kids who you're dating right away, because they might fall in love with them, and then that's just unnecessary loss that everybody has to go through when the relationship matures, and maybe it isn't right after the infatuation period wears off. So it makes sense, but I was frustrated at the time when I wrote this.
Yeah. Interesting segue, because you brought up loss, and I would say that for me, one of the songs that I like best on Ascend is Down the Road, and I gotta say it crushes me every time I listen to it. I mean, in a good way, but
Me
also
too. I hear the title and I get misty-eyed. So
is this about your sister?
yes, it
Yeah,
is.
it's you talked about you not being much of a country person, but this definitely has a country flavor to this song.
Definitely.
And you said your sister was into heavy metal.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you juxtaposed country music to write about her, sort of that style.
It is interesting, and that's funny that you mentioned that. I've written about her. I feel like I've written about her. Oh, and I haven't written a ton about her with District 97, but I channel her spirit in that band a lot. So in that way, I almost like created an alter ego on stage with the band that feels like a conglomeration of us both coming into one person. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think she was a big country fan, and so she's probably upset that I did that.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't
It's
think
such a
so.
beautiful, beautiful song.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about Descend now, which
Okay.
just came out. And this is was it the same personnel essentially?
Not quite. The bassist is different. Andrew Vogt played bass on Descend. We tracked at a time where COVID was at its all-time high. And so we entered the studio masked. We did, rapid tests in the studio, waited for them to be negative, then removed our masks and tracked. So it was, everybody was kind of putting themselves a little bit at risk by doing that. But Brian Doherty at the time was not. Andrew ended up being a really good choice. I think that even though he hadn't played with Michael Caskey before, they gelled right away, and it was just a wonderful union of sounds. The reason that I went with that band for Ascend is that all of those guys had played together so much that they were just like they instinctively knew what each other was going to do, and they could like give each other little looks like, you want to maybe at that point, and they're like, yeah, probably. And I'm like, what did you guys just decide? That's cool, but I mean, I guess it ended up great. So this was not quite as like band plays Leslie Hunt music. It was more like, people kind of hired individually. So
yeah. Starts off with "Don't Make Me Come Back There," which is such a great line from a mom. Don't make me come back there. And it seems to have multiple sort of subjects and it starts off with that great lyric about keeping your hands where you can see them, which was a very big topic in 2020 with with what was going on with police violence against blacks, and don't make any sudden moves, don't go for your glove box, that kind of thing. And I just wondered, sort of how many topics did you kind of jam in this song? Because there was, if you're like me, and I think like most people, I think all of us, our heads were just about to explode last year because there were just so many things going on.
Yep. And I felt that too. And I felt like I was just walking around my neighborhood, just looking at my neighbors and like, okay, like how far, like how close are we going to get on the sidewalk? And, and watching people have, driveway parties, and then watching people have like first birthday parties out in their lawn in the dead of winter. And,
Yeah.
and just like, and then also just watching the different signs go up in the yard. I live in a neighborhood where like from one house to the next, you just don't know who anybody voted for, and so like you're kind of walking around like, so we've got political stuff, we've got racial stuff, we've got, different amounts of thinking that this virus is bogus, so then if you're wearing a mask in public, people are like, take that off, you're listening to, your cult leader, and just stuff like, it's just like, whoa. So I crammed just about all of the subjects into this song.
It did feel like a little bit of everything, but the overall message is everybody just stop. Don't make me come back there.
Just strap in. Stop being so impatient. Everybody's like, oh, another month of this. And it's just like, you're still alive. Shut up. You know what I mean? Like, if you're able to complain, please just refrain from doing that, because that means you're one of the lucky ones that's alive, and that's how serious it felt to me. And I just couldn't believe, I just was just like, why are we so bad at being passengers? Why are we so bad at being powerless? Why are we so bad at thinking like a group right now? Why is it all about me and my rights, and I'm inconvenienced and I'm bored, and it's like, God, you all sound like toddlers. Don't make me come back there, please. Yes. So anyway, I was a little annoyed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I felt like, I think a lot of people felt varying degrees of that. It was certainly a case of you really found out exactly how entitled we are now. Last year when, people were complaining about having to stay home or wear a mask. And it's like, well, you could be on a ventilator right now.
Right. I know. It was such an obvious, like, just a spotlight on entitlement, like you said. So I had a lot of preachy things to say, and I just created an album full of like great advice.
The second track is the most different. It's the one that stands out, I think, in terms of stylistically from all the other songs on both of the EPs, because it sounds like a Rufus with Shaka Khan song. It's very R&B, very very different from the other songs. But when you put this on here, was that a concern for you that it stuck out as much as it did?
Very much so. And if anything, Christian, the producer, was like, does this even go? Like, maybe this is just on its own. Maybe this doesn't fit with the record, and I just didn't want it to be kicked out from the group. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like there was just so many topics in that applied, that it sums up the mood of the year, and but like put it to like a fun dancey vibe. And like, if I'm honest, that's some of my favorite stuff. I don't often write that way because I often write when I'm kind of sad, so I didn't want to kick it out because I wanted to be able to then one day kind of cross over to maybe my next album is just more funky and upbeat and dancey, and so I don't know, I didn't want to kick it out.
Yeah.
Well, it was a concern. It
lets people dance to social justice issues, that's not something that people get to do very often.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get to do that very often, so no. You're welcome. Yeah.
I have to tell you how much I love Big White Flag. This is a song that I struggled to find one influence because it sounds very much like the Cars. It sounds very much like a Taylor Swift song. It's got this Cars sort of keyboard riff in there, and the chorus is a little Carsy, but also it's got that sort of Taylor Swift attitude a little bit. And I love that you invented a new pronunciation for the word schedule.
Schedule. Yeah.
What was sort of your do you remember what you were listening to or what you were thinking about when you wrote that?
I was listening to Taylor Swift. I was folding laundry and watched like a big performance of hers that on Netflix or HBO or something, and just the vast kind of different kinds of sounds she has, so like she's got these big dance numbers, she's got this like just sitting at a microphone singing and playing guitar and connecting with her audience in such a way that I loved. But I just got this like little beat in my head, and I found myself just my boyfriend was in the basement on a big Zoom call with all of his friends. That's how they all stayed connected. They would do these big elaborate Zoom calls, and they would play games and like try, make fun of each other and just do all this funny stuff. And I was sitting upstairs and I didn't know what to do with myself, first of all. So I'd find myself like going into a room, I would turn the speaker on. I got this Bluetooth speaker and it goes, and it like makes this big noise when it goes on. And then it makes another noise when it goes off. And I would turn it on and then like think I was going to listen to a podcast, but I would just like do off, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'll turn it off. No, I don't want to be in silence. No, I'm going to turn it back on. And so I just felt like I just didn't know what to do with myself, because normally I'm so busy, in normal life. So when I wrote it, I knew that it was super poppy. I knew that I wanted it to have almost like an 80s driving feel to it. Like, I was listening to a lot of 1975, the band. I really like that band. And they've got this like kind of like 80s dance vibe to it, a lot of their songs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the song that I wrote that made me realize that I needed to rope Christian in. I remember the first text I sent him, I was like, I just wrote a song that's super poppy and you need to produce it. And he's like, oh, cool. Like, I'd love to hear it. And so I sent it to him. And then he's like, well, would you have any other ones? I'm like, actually, yeah. Like, let's just do this, and then I got the idea to do a Kickstarter so I could afford him, because he's a busy guy. He does a lot of sound production and sound design for, various commercials and stuff like that. But he hadn't done a record in a while. So that was kind of the gateway song that had me admit that it was time to work with Christian on these songs, because they needed a proper home.
Yeah. Well, I think they found it.
Yeah, but I'm glad you like that one. I like that one too.
Yeah, it's a really great song. So Many Times is another favorite on this one. Can you tell me how you came up with the backing vocal part in the chorus, that sort of soaring thing that you do?
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Thanks. I think the way that because I knew that this was one of those ones that just came really fast. I wrote it really fast. It was another one that I wrote while Lloyd was in the basement on a Zoom call. So there was something about him being social and doing his thing. And then I was just alone, what I felt was alone up in the main floor, to just like write a song and not have anybody within earshot going, oh, ooh, I felt like I was kind of like as alone in the house as I humanly possibly could be during a pandemic where everybody is trapped together. So I knew the pre-chorus ended kind of dancing in the bright lights. And I knew it needed to go, and I knew it just needed to kind of like soar back up from there. So like, because the pre-chorus ended right before the one of the downbeat of the chorus, I knew that the first part of the chorus needed to just be kind of like a non-verbal melody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it didn't have to cut off too soon.
Yeah, I just think it holds everything together really well. It's very seamless, and for me, that part really makes the song. There's a guest vocal by, I think his name is Jerome Matthews Jr.
Jerome Matthews, yeah.
And Jerome Matthews is somebody that you work with in another band, right?
Yeah. So my big bread and butter thing as a musician, to stay at home, to stay local and support my kids with full benefits and everything, is I'm an event band leader. So I do, we do lots of weddings, we do lots of private events. And Jerome's been in that band as my primary, he and I are the two lead singers primarily since 2015. And this song is about being in an event band, being a part of someone's family for the night. Why I haven't seen my own family and their own celebrations like any Saturdays since 2008, So, yeah. And then, and because so much pop music that we sing, so many songs have those kind of like, put your hands up, whoa, just kind of stuff. I was like, I could write a song with kind of a play on that. You know what I mean? Just like, put your hands up kind of thing. Yeah.
It really works. It's great.
Thank you.
And then the Closer is Complex Heart, and this one I just really love the string arrangement, and I
Mhm.
always am curious how somebody like Christian or whoever came up with this was. I'm always curious as to how they hear a song the way it's written and go, I know exactly how the strings should go for this.
I don't know either. I mean, I think he's so connected with, um, he's got such an ear, and such a sensibility for, movement and just kind of what I like about him is that he makes sure that there's a point of interest from the beginning of the song to the end. There's not a lot of just drony nothingness. Like the mind has somewhere to go. Something is always kind of popping out and grabbing you for a second.
Hmm.
And I think he's really good about, that's what makes him such a genius string arranger as well, because he can hear those inner voices. He can kind of find out. I came up with the harmony, the kind of thing that
Hmm.
goes along with the vocal, and then I think the strings kind of took off from there. Or no, I'm wrong, because the strings were first, but he had more or less done the string arrangement, and then I sang the backgrounds over that.
Okay. I always think the sign of a good song is a song that's got a lot of little, not too complex things going on, but the way they come
Mhm.
together just really adds texture and depth and layers to it. And I think this is one of those songs. In fact, I wish it was longer because it's over. Like I'm just enjoying it, and then it's gone. It's like, now I got to start it again. But
And it's so funny because we actually made it longer.
oh
That's
yeah,
the longer version of it. When I first wrote it, it was like more of an interlude, and Christian was like, "This is my favorite song you've ever written. Like, can we please make it longer?" And so then we, added that little interlude thing, da, 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 and then came back with a. But yeah, I agree that a lot of these songs could probably stand to be stretched a little bit if performed live. Because some of them are so short that it's like, whoa, like a 20-minute EP, like of 7 songs.
yeah,
Like, why are
yeah.
so many of them less than 3 minutes long?
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I probably could have probably stretched them out a little bit, but I didn't. So here we are.
No, there's no need to pad it either. So sometimes.
Yeah, you don't want to just needlessly fluff things
Yeah.
up
I
because you
mean,
feel
if
like,
you want things to be longer, all you got to do is do some of your District 97 stuff.
yeah. How about like an average song length is like 7 minutes. And
Yeah.
then,
You can
so,
sing both EPs or one epic from District 97 in the
yeah,
same amount of
I
time.
don't, all or nothing with me, apparently. So,
Do you have a favorite song on these 14, out of these 14, one that really speaks to you more than others?
I don't know. I find myself, I like them all for different reasons, and I do find myself every now and then kind of wanting to like visit them, like I would visit a family member and be like, pop in on this one. Ooh, like it's sometimes hard because I'll listen for like just a tiny little moment that I'm like, I wish I would have sang that better, and like it's kind of tough for me to just leave it alone. But overall, I think that these are just about as great as they could have turned out. I mean, we really, the mixes are amazing, the masters are amazing, the playing is so good, the ideas, I couldn't be more grateful for the home that these songs found. um I guess it just depends on the day. Some days I just want to like funk out only. Some days if I like want to cry, I will listen to certain songs. I think Your Wind is a song that really gets me. I'm just really proud of how that one flows, and it just what that song makes it makes me want to dance in my weird District 97 way of like lose, you know what I mean? Because like there's like some odd meters, and
Yeah.
we lose a beat here and there, and it's like a little bit herky jerky and a little, but I just, for some reason, that song really, really proud of that one.
You mentioned that a lot of these songs just kind of fell out of you. Was there one that was maybe harder to write than the others?
Yes. Uh, There You Are was very fast. Wolf Cried Boy was hard. That one gave me a lot of trouble. I couldn't figure out what to do for the chorus. The chorus melody, I think I probably had 7 different versions of it. And I finally came up with that one. I think I worked on that one for like a week straight. That one just came out so hard. And then I finally
Mhm.
came up with a thing and I was like, this is it. Finally. And it's also a hard one for me to remember because it had so many different chord orders. You know what I mean? So like I feel like I would come up with a thing and then like A B it, and be like, okay, do I like this? Do I like this F major 7 to the C major 7, or do I like to reverse it? And I don't know. I kind of probably thought about that one too hard, but it turned out great. So I'm glad I did that. Another one that no, Don't Make Me Come Back There came immediately. Again and Again came immediately. Complex Heart was instant. No, Complex Heart took a min. No, that was instant too. I think they all just kind of came out besides Will Cried Boy, to be honest.
Mhm. Do you write more on a piano or acoustic guitar?
Equal. Down the Road took a little while. I thought Down the Road was going to be about something totally different. I thought it was going to be about kind of closing up a relationship, but it ended up turning into a song for my sister. So that was different. But yeah, no, equally, I write on both.
Okay. What's next for Leslie Hunt? You're going to be able to get out on the road and tour these things? Are you going to do some shows in Chicago? We're going to hear some live versions of these.
That's what I desperately want to do next. That's my big thing. I did pay somebody to make really good charts of all of these songs. So if my key players aren't available, I could, hand another player, the documents to pull up these songs with it. The thing about being a solo act, it's not as much about, like being a band, we rehearse all the time for free. We have a band account. Like whatever we get paid at the end of it is great. We're more of like an entity. But for me, it usually ends up costing me money to play as a solo artist because I want to make the time worthwhile for the people that I hire. And so but I know that now I do have a band and they're pretty excited about it. And they keep being like, when are we going to play? When are we going to play? And so I just need to I'm not great at booking stuff. And so that's a hurdle I need to get over with the quickness, because that would be a great thing to put together. So yeah. And I have more songs too.
Oh, nice. So we're going to hear another album coming soon, maybe.
Hope so. That's the plan. Keep them coming like a machine. Just feed the machine.
Any live dates scheduled for District 97?
Yes, we have one more show. We just got back from a tour. We went down south and back, and then now we've got one at Reggie's on November 19th, which is just a week from today, actually. So and that's our final one, and then we are going to do a tour out east in the spring.
Sounds cool. I wish you all the luck in the world with these two EPs. They're great. You can go to lesliehuntmusic.com and buy not only the two EPs, but all of your albums and some t-shirts and stuff. Where else can people find you on the internet?
Instagram at Leslie Hunt, Facebook at Leslie Hunt Live, YouTube. I don't remember what that one is. I think I think
Leslie just type Hunt. Leslie Hunt in.
Yeah, just please.
YouTube will tell you where to go.
I think that's where we're at finally. So I think I don't think you need to have it spelled just right. But I'm all over the place. You can stream it first. Streaming it actually really helps me. Stream it and then buy it if you like it. Those numbers are really important, I guess. So.
Yeah. So you don't tweet a lot though. You're on Twitter, but you don't tweet very often.
That is a thing that I should also do, because anything that's ever been on Twitter, it was because my Facebook was linked to it. And so it all just kind of does it all at once. And that was helpful just to keep me kind of active on more than one side at a time. But truly, I have a problem with social media. I really just dislike almost everything about it. So that's not serving me, very well, but it is something I don't, it's not a process that I enjoy. So I wish that we had other ways, but apparently the world is passing me by. So I better get with it.
Leslie Hunt, the EPs are called Ascend and Descend. I think they're terrific. I hope they do really
Thank
well for you.
you.
I really appreciate your time today.
I really appreciate this interview. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me and for listening and for caring. It means a lot.